recording. Changed all the settings on me as oh, I gotta love it, and find myself on Facebook, and then I will do my intro. Always shows half my head going. Come on, load. Can't do it before because you just got grumpy before. Biblical transformation. Here we go. All right, here we go. So I would like to introduce, and I will pin them actually to the pin them. Should have done this before, but that's okay. Spotlight for everyone, and spotlight myself for everyone. Add to the spotlight. All right, I would like to introduce two of my friends, Vico, also known as Victor, and Rachel Gutierrez, and they are pastors in Oklahoma City, and together they are passionate about helping others thrive in every season and walk confidently in God's design. Their long waiting season, love story, marriage inspired many to wait well and discover renewed hope. So give a round of applause for Vico and Rachel, also known as Victor, but I like to his real name is Vico. His Americanized name is Victor, so you'll see them both. So
Actually, that is I inherit that from my dad. My daddy was also Victor from Mexico. We're Mexicans. But the short part for that is Vico. So that's how it come. And I like that.
I'm gonna drop the link here in the chat. But yeah, let's tell us a little about yourself, what you're up to, your book, your new book, wherever you want to jump in on that question.
Okay. It's great to be on here. We love you, Claire, and great to be with your community. Um, so, as you said, we're living in Oklahoma City. We're part of a church in Edmond, just outside of Oklahoma, where we serve in a variety of roles. We co-lead our young adult ministry. We're serving on youth leadership. I also serve with kids, and Vico heads our
Yeah, I do the media, head the media team, video editing and graphic design also over there.
And something we continue to do is mentor young adults. It's something I did for years before we went to Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry for 3 years. And in our third year, we're students under Steve and Wendy Backlund, which is amazing and a huge part of our story, actually. But long before that, when I was doing college ministry, there's a lot of mentoring of young adults and youth and college students. And was in my waiting season. And Claire mentioned our book. This is our book called Worth the Wait. It just came out in mid-December. And the book shares our love story would probably be too long to share. We'll share aspects of it maybe, but too long to share now, but we're happy to share it. You can get our book and read all about it in there.
Yeah.
But our love story points to the faithfulness of God, God being in the details. Um, I mean, you just see God's fingerprint all over putting us together. And I'll just say, Vico came from, well, originally from Mexico, like you said, but was living in Oklahoma City. I was living in upstate New York, and the Lord brought us to Dallas, Texas, and that's where we met at a conference at Christ for the Nations that neither of us honestly were planning on going to. And then I was on my way from there to Mexico, his country, which is cool. God put in my heart a love for Mexico. And I've gone there several times and finally got to return, which was awesome in the same year that I met him. And so our it's the book is not just about our story, but in the book we do each share our side of the story. And that's not just how we met, but our journey in the waiting, the process of waiting. And there's several chapters that talk about that, the waiting season. And then there's a few chapters at the end that talk about marriage, what we've learned. We're coming up on 8 years. And I know others probably been married longer, but what God has taught us in this season. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of our book.
Yeah, and actually, we also have we both come from solid families, so we feel that we carry that authority to release a healthy marriage, to just impart the healthy family environment.
Yeah, well, one of Steve's new taglines is "Give me 8 months or 9 months, and your life radically transformed."
Yes.
with his new
Yeah.
Backland Academy that
Yeah.
he's been
Yep.
doing. So you guys
Mm,
got it in person, boots on the ground in Reading. So yeah,
That was
yeah,
a gift
that
for
was
sure.
yeah,
amazing, definitely.
yeah. I'm second year Backland leadership, so now I'm taking care of the first year students. Got a little group
That's
of them. So yeah. So
I love that he's expanded his reach through that. That's awesome.
Yes.
yeah, and stepped back in the process.
Hmm.
You know, he moved to Idaho, and I mean, just a
Hmm.
season of transition for so many people.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
just this wild statement out of Windy, and all of a sudden it was like, uh-huh.
Yep. Yep.
Let's explore that. So yeah.
It's awesome.
So
Hmm.
share a little more about your love story because it is a great little love story that I know you can't share it all, but share some. Share what you think the Lord's on right now.
Okay. So actually a huge part of our love story is for me, there's a bit of a backstory. So I shared with you where we met. But for about a year prior, I was praying, God, if there's something I need to do um, to meet my spouse, show me. I was 36, almost 37 when I met my husband. Had been waiting and really didn't date. There were a couple guys I talked to and, to go out on some dates, but never felt something from the Lord like to keep going. And with one guy that I was talking to, my prayer was, God, if he's not the one, take the desire to my heart, and God did. And another guy I was talking to, I went to a women's conference, was telling my friend about this guy, and I we got to the conference, and the very first thing the speaker said was, I just feel a word from the Lord. I'm not sure if it's for one person or for many, but someone here is about to settle for the bronze when God has the gold. And I was like, I knew it was me, for me, and it probably is for others in the room, but I knew it was for me. And I said, well, then if he's not the gold for me, I'm not the gold for him. And there's no point in going further. And I would just say that for, a real big passion of ours is to see people walk in the fullness that God has, to thrive in every season and
Hmm.
not settle.
Hmm.
So, and one of the things God spoke to us both in our waiting season was dream big. And there would be times, when you're waiting and you start to ask questions and, you have other people asking you questions and wondering, okay, well, how are you going to meet someone? And at the time, in a large chunk of my waiting season, I was in the college ministry. I was giving, people would say, you're just giving your life away to everybody else. Like, how are you going to meet someone? Yeah. And, there was moments where the questions would come and say, maybe they're right, maybe but there was a passion in us not to settle. And we just speak that to whatever situation, because there's others that are going to be on this call or maybe listening later that maybe you're not waiting for a spouse, but we're probably all, whether it's a little or big thing, waiting on the Lord for something or waiting for breakthrough in an area. For some people, it might be healing. It might be to see a marriage restored. It might be for kids to return. It might be for loved ones to come to know the Lord. There's so many, a new job, just stepping further into a new ministry, whatever it is you're waiting for, don't settle. And so there'll be moments in my waiting where I'd say, well, maybe he won't be this, and I had a list that I felt like the Lord had given me. And the Lord said to me, really, Rachel, you don't think I can handle that? And I was like, okay. And he just kept nudging me, dream big, dream big, dream big. And we're actually currently in a waiting season for four like major areas in our life, major things. And the Lord has reminded us the same thing.
Yeah.
Dream big, don't settle. Trust me, trust that I'm in the process. And I think in the process, he's enough if we allow him to be enough. And sometimes, I know, at least mentoring a lot of young people when they're waiting for a spouse, it feels like maybe he's not, or he's not going to come through, and all the questions are there. But if we really press into God and allow him to be enough in our waiting season, he is enough. Um,
Yeah. And actually for me it was happening kind of almost the same thing, right? Like I was I know what I want to see on my wife, on my future wife. I have my checklist,
mhm.
and everything sometimes God also I ask God like probably I put in too much, expectation of what I want. And so many times God come back and say to me like, trust me, I can do this, you know. So just letting go work. I mean, yeah, let go work on the process. And the other thing that I like to share is when I was in the wedding season, praying for my wife. At some point, I remember just having this thought about like, I also want to be the answer or somebody's prayer, and I ask God to help me to be that person. And the good thing is like God is very gentle. He's not gonna tell you, oh yeah, you need to change this. But he in the process, he help you to be that person. And I cannot tell exactly what things change during that waiting season, but definitely I can see now how our marriage is. Definitely, we are meant to be together, right?
And there's no question of that. A cool part of our story is that we met on July 4th, 2017, and July 4th, 2006, I actually went to Mexico for 4 months to serve in an orphanage and with a church, but really to practice my Spanish. And so I say July 4th, 2006, like my heart was opened on another level to a nation. Like those 4 months were some of the most life-changing seasons of my life where
Hmm.
God did an incredible work in me, in my heart, made me free. I felt and I won't get into this because it's a long story, but I felt like I was trapped in a box and wasn't really myself for a number of years. And God used me being in a foreign land, stumbling through the language there to break things open for me to be more completely who He created me to be. Um, and God's created us in such a unique and beautiful way. And He's got a great plan and purpose for us. And He wants us, the song that says, "Tell me what moves your heart." One time I was singing it, the Lord said, "Rachel, you being fully you, who I created you to be, you were what moves my heart." So I want to tell
Hmm.
you, each of you move the heart of God. And so in that season, it was a radical season for me, one of the best seasons of my life. And it was July 4th. And then 11 years later, on the same date, I meet my Mexican, which brought me out of singlehood and it into the further plan that God had for me. And it's those attention to details. There's so many dates in our story where I just look and you say, okay, there's God's fingerprints all over it.
Hmm.
And so, there's a lot of things God was speaking to us in our waiting, but there were times where I remember I was in Ecuador serving for a year, came back, was on my way back and felt like the Lord said, "You're going to meet him soon." Well, soon was 6 years later. But sometimes in our waiting, God will give us the little things we need to kind of get us over the hump. And then it's like he knows those things. And I didn't really have words about marriage or anything, but it was in my heart. And I would say to any single that's watching, if there's a desire in your heart to be married, we believe fully that it's going to happen. It's I should say it's a desire that's originated in the heart of God. Do not lose hope in the waiting. Do not
Hmm.
lose hope in the waiting, because if it originated in his heart, I believe it's God's heart to see that into fulfillment. It just sometimes it takes a little longer. And for any people that might be watching that maybe you're not waiting for a spouse, I believe this will speak to you for whatever you're waiting for. But also, if you're in a place to encourage other people that might be a little bit older than in their 20s for getting married, ask the Holy Spirit what to say. Because I know a lot of times I found from friends, in the church has been the ones to speak the most discouragement, and almost like you're a problem that needs to be fixed if you're, heading into late 20s or 30s and you're not married, or people need to make it happen. But what if the Lord's, and we talk about waiting for other things, but what if he has us wait for this? And our story is a testament of this. I don't think we followed the Lord, we pursued him, and I believe we found one another in the timing that God ordained. And he's using this story to bring hope to others. But
Yeah.
let's be a voice of encouragement and of life and ask the Holy Spirit. And it's okay to ask questions, but ask the right questions and ask the Holy Spirit to guide us, because most of the time singles are struggling and need the encouragement. They don't need one more person talking down to them. And go ahead, jump in.
Well, Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because what I'm thinking about is one of the ones in BLA too wrote a book called Divine Flow, and he said sometimes we're persisting and we're pulling on a door that we should push.
Mm.
And when you're waiting like this, how often is it you try to push God?
Yeah.
You're like, come on, God, you said any time now,
Yeah.
and He'll give you those hope things that you're going to find. I mean, here I am. I'm 50. I'll be 51 in a few days here, in 6 weeks. But it's like, and I haven't. I've been waiting for a spouse. I thought it would be a little different. Got a big shift 10 years ago. And now it's like, okay, Lord, when am I ready to find my
Mhm.
spouse? And I know it's just any time,
Hmm.
but I had to get ready,
Mhm.
in order for the right spouse to be coming into my life. And he keeps giving me these little nuggets of stuff, like my whining and complaining moment. And he shows me a picture of me, and I'm like, Lord, this looks like I'm in a hospital room. And he goes, you are. And I get handed this crimson haired little boy, and I'm going, okay,
Wow.
apparently this is my son. And I'm like, you do know
Hmm.
biologically I'm like 48 at this time. And I was like, that would have to, I'd be like 50. And here I am 50 and it hasn't happened yet. But it's like, but yet I still am like, it's gonna happen. That my
Yeah.
right
Hmm.
Yeah.
spouse is gonna happen in the timing of God. I'm not gonna push it, but I'm
Yeah.
also not going to not pull on the door that he tells me to pull on either,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
is
Yep.
partly me. So,
Yep.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I remember actually the first time that we met, I was praying and she was praying. Then we find out this we were praying on the different for each other. But the way that we pray was like immediately was God, if this is you, bring everything to happen. I don't want to make this happen. I don't want to feel like this is uh, my last ride. Like the if I don't take this chance, I'm gonna lose it. But God made it very clear. So yeah,
Mhm.
now here we are.
And our waiting season, yeah, our waiting and it was, actually part of our story is there was a pastora that was praying for him for years. And she was saying, she was praying for him according to the Bible story of Jacob and Rachel. And she said, Vico is working and waiting for his Rachel. And I remember his mom telling me, and she was like, and that's your name. And just said, and it will be love at first sight. And it was. I mean, it
What?
just from the moment and within moments. Now, part of it was the Lord had been speaking to me for about a year, different things. And then just before I went on this trip, I thought I like knew I was going to meet my husband. I didn't know if it was the airport, if it was Mexico, if it was in Dallas, but I knew that I knew that I knew it was going to happen. Um, and I'll jump back in a little bit into the story, but just on what you were saying, Claire, sometimes are waiting because I don't want people to feel like, oh, it's just I need a lot more work to get done, and that's why I'm waiting.
Mhm.
Sometimes, because God has different reasons why we're waiting, and we can't figure that out. But in the journey, he is healing us, maturing us, growing us. And I've said to a lot of people that are older, I said, you start in a different place in marriage when you're 30, 40, 50 than when you're 19, 20, 21. You're in a different place.
Mhm.
You've walked through more of life, you've walked through more circumstances, more healing, more maturing, more growing in the Lord. You bring that into marriage. So it is a bonus. And to realize that and say, you know what, I'm going to value that. But also, I felt the Lord was showing me um, it's not just about us, but he's preparing people around us. So sometimes our breakthrough, first, he's preparing us for the level of breakthrough that he's bringing. Because I remember, I think it was Chris Valentin saying, he's not going to give you a level of breakthrough that's going to break you.
Mhm.
And so he's preparing us for that, yes. But sometimes he's preparing the hearts of those around us. And I know God's outside of time. He could have done all that in a different time, but I can't make sense of it. But I know that his timing is perfect, and there's a time in history for things to happen. We're waiting for kids. and we're not the typical age to have kids like you were just talking about. But God is outside of time. And I remember when I would start getting a little bit older and thinking, okay, God, but I want to have kids. And he's like, well, yeah, I know, Rachel, I've got you. And so I don't know what the Lord's doing, but he's doing a good work.
Yes.
And we have to trust that whenever he does the fulfilling, like he's going to give us the strength, all that we need to walk this out. And so part of it is just letting go and trusting him. And yes, we do things in the waiting. We're in preparation for sure.
Hmm.
We're asking the Lord. And if there's things he wants us to do, then we're moving. We're not hiding in a closet saying, I hope somebody knocks down the door and finds me. But at the same point, sometimes we try to make it happen too much. And there's too much pressure of like, I need to make it happen. I need to figure out this person, or maybe I need to go to this and meet him. And sometimes my mind would go there and I have to say, you know what? God's God's big enough. He's big enough. And if we're off track, he's big enough to put us back on track to bring us to the best. But will we wait for the gold? I remember hearing a friend in my waiting, there was a girls' book study, and we were gathered, and this friend met someone and she was sharing with us, but it was someone that didn't align with like her values and different, and I just remember her saying, she said, well, I'm 35, I need to make it happen. And I just looked at her and I said, since when is age the standard? And my heart was just like, we need to wait for the best that God has for you. And I know that this man is the best, that this is absolutely who God ordained me to be with. And so I just want to encourage you, whatever waiting you're in, to wait for the best, to allow God to prepare you, and to pray. One of the things that, in my waiting, I was praying for him, obviously without name. And there's a part of her story in 2011. I was praying for him. I was in Ecuador getting ready to run in a track and felt burdened in my heart. I need to pray for my husband. And almost like whatever he's going through and me praying for him, this is going to be confirmation. This is the man I'm to marry. And come to find out, this was one of the hardest seasons, apart from losing his dad, the hardest season of his life.
Yeah.
And the Lord had me interceding for him without knowing,
Years
Ken.
before. Yeah.
And it's just, but that's who God is.
Hmm.
God's big. And I believe he was knitting our hearts together long before we knew one another. And even, we're waiting for other things. God's doing things in our hearts and he's bringing things together and he's preparing us in ways we don't even know. It's
Yeah.
God's beyond us. He's, so many times we want to see the big picture and God's like, if I showed you the big picture, you'd be
You won't
scared.
know what it
You'd
is.
run. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he step by step, and it's will we trust him in the process? And will we keep, another big thing in our waiting was saying yes to God, that being the most important thing. Not, do I need to wait for my spouse to do this? Do I need to do, because people get stuck and it's, well, if God's asked you to do this or calling you to do it, then he's going to equip you and give you all that you need. We're not powerless as singles or, when we're in our waiting season. No, he's created us with power, with authority, and we can step in fully what God has for us as singles in this season. And yet at the same time, trusting for what's coming. So it's this balance of being content, which is like important. I remember hearing if you're not content in singlehood, you'll never be content in marriage. So
Mm.
there's a battle or a tension between being content and yet contending.
Hmm.
Being content in what he's doing now, but yet contending. God, this is what you said. And I know Claire's talked a lot about declarations, but declaring out, speaking out what God has. And actually, Bill Johnson was speaking a message about a year before I met Vico, and he was talking about singing new songs in the spirit, releasing things to come. And I was driving a short distance, and what came out of my mouth was, and I was singing it was, my future, my husband, and I declare that he is coming. And it
Hmm.
became my anthem, and I sang it over and over again. And it was releasing what was coming because sure enough, a year later, my husband was coming.
Mm. And I also feel like in the process of waiting, God teach you how to hear him. How it yeah, it just bring that confirmation to from him. I remember years before I met Rachel, I was engaged, ready to get married. But in that season, I was feeling like this is not right. This is not right. Something happened,
Mhm.
and God just break up everything. Now, this person was a daughter of pastors, so everything it was right. It was okay, and we
Mhm.
were doing the right things. But something in my heart was like, no, this is not right. And even in her heart also. And God break everything. And now I can see, well, I get it. I know why, right? So what
That's
I
good.
learned is how God speak to us to recognize his direction, because we were trying to get married, but no, that was not the plan. That was not his plan.
And what happened when you broke up?
Well, I feel this sense of peace. I know that is the right decision. She was on the same way. We never talk again, and we never have that direction again. But so I know that God put peace in my heart. So now I know that I can take decisions, and when I feel His peace, that's where God is on.
That's a huge part is peace.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, why don't you speak to that as we wrap up the live part of this and we'll jump backstage and everybody stay backstage. I'll drop the link again and you can jump backstage as well. Hashtag live, hashtag um replay. What's your big takeaway here? Little light icon. I'll drop it in the chat in a second. But yeah, and just talk about that peace in the waiting. Because I think that's one of the things that again, when talking about sometimes we're pushing on a door we need to pull on, and
Yeah, that's good.
there's no peace in that. You know,
Yeah,
we like our Americanized pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just keep moving forward. But sometimes stopping
yeah,
Yeah.
is actually what God wants you to do because you're either outrunning him or you're outrunning his promises and he just he wants you to have peace, but as
yeah,
Wendy has said, will you receive it?
yeah.
Yes.
So wrap up in the next couple minutes on that area. And
Okay, that's good. Um, yeah, I mean, peace to me, in any decision we make, we've got to have peace. And especially in the big decision, I mean, there's little decisions we make every day, but in the big decisions we're making and stepping forward, is peace is when, there could be all the questions, there could be chaos around us, but I have this security and I have this knowing, yes, this is from the Lord. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to take a step in this direction. And really letting that be like when I think Steve talks about the check engine light, when that's going off, okay, something's off. I don't have peace in my heart. And then we need to check. And sometimes we try to push through that because one, we feel like we're not getting the answer we want, or it feels too late, or it feels like God's not listening, or it feels like whatever the thing that comes in and tries to interfere with our wait. Will we choose to stop, like Claire was just saying, rest in Him and allow His peace to fill us? Kind of like reset us in a sense, because
Mhm.
sometimes we get too caught up in our emotions in our head, the mind games, trying to figure things out, and honestly, listening to other voices. But will we shut out the noise and say, you know what? I want to hear God's voice above every other voice and above all the noise
Yes.
because His is the one that brings peace. And that's another big thing is like, whose voice are we listening to? Because His voice brings peace. When there's all the striving and trying to make it happen, and there's voices that come in that bring in doubt and questions and all of this, and it's wait, but is that the voice of peace?
Yeah, and even in decisions that feels like they are the right things, and you feel excited, and then these
Hmm.
feel like they're gonna bring money or business, good business is a good deal, but you just know that is
Hmm.
something different. And when you say no to that, and you feel like complete peace, and everybody is like, how you take that decision? You're
Hmm.
crazy. But know that God is speaking to you,
Hmm.
and then you see the results. Like, oh yeah, definitely, this was the best decision. God bring a better, I don't know, outcome, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's good.
Mhm.
we'll say goodbye to Facebook. Put your takeaway in the chat, and then we join us backstage for Q&A, burning question, burning observation. Why is it not?
And we'll share
There we
links
go.
to the book too, Claire,
Oh yeah,
with you.
throw those. Yeah, we'll put those in at the top.
Yeah.
Send that to me on
Okay.
Amazon. So yeah. So, all right. Yo. All right, you're backstage.
Hmm.
Jump back. All right, we'll change the screen. We'll unpin ourselves. Move from
Hi.
spotlight and remove from spotlight. Oh yeah, I have to do that over here. Yeah, totally talk myself through everything I do. You're just looking for it. All right. So anybody got an observation, thought, burning question for Vico and Rachel? Oh yeah, wait. One more pause. Okay. Facebook